All right, looks like
Vice Mayor Parton, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Dr. Manker. Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Let's see. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this afternoon for our virtual city council meeting. At this time, I'd like to do a roll call. Ms. Bess?
Okay, sorry, I was muted. All right, Vice Mayor Parton,
Here.
Councilor Randolph,
Here.
Councilor Holloway,
Here.
Councilor Gore,
Here.
Councilor Pelham,
Pelham's probably en route back from the mural unveiling back to her house to tune into the meeting.
okay, and we know Denton's out, and we know that Mayor Bennett is out. So you do have a quorum, Vice Mayor Parton, you have 4.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
At this time, can I have a motion to go into closed session, please?
So moved.
Councilor Randolph, do you mind just reading out the motion?
Damn, Johnny, I thought I was going to get off lightly. I move to go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 to discuss and consider personnel matters, including the assignment, performance, and salaries of specific appointees and officers of the city, including the city manager, city attorney, and city clerk, and to consider prospective candidates for appointment to various boards and commissions, A7 and 8, to consult with legal counsel and staff regarding specific legal matters and probable litigation where such consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the city's interest, and to the extent these discussions will be aided thereby. A4, for the protection of the privacy of individuals in personal matters not related to public business.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Ms. Holloway. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Bess, we do roll call, please?
Councilor Pelham. That's right, she's not there yet, so sorry. Councilor Randolph,
Yes.
Councilor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Gore.
Yes.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Vice Mayor, you have 4.
All right, thank you, everyone. We will go into closed session.
March?
Yes.
Councilor Denton on? I see her name.
Yeah, I do too.
Holly?
Ms. Denton, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
For a little while.
Okay.
I don't know for how long.
Well, you need to go into closed session then. Yes, sir.
You able to come into closed session now?
Nah, that's okay. All right, I'm on my way.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Molly.
Here, Sandra, sorry. Can you hear me?
I was just trying to make sure I wasn't in the wrong place.
You're in the right place. They're still enclosed.
We'll get started in just a bit. Dr. Manker had to run out to her car real quick.
Are we in a regular meeting?
Yes, ma'am, we're in the open session right now.
Thank you. I got kicked out early.
All right, thank you, Dr. Manker. We are coming out of a closed session at this time. Is there a motion to come out of closed session? Is there a motion to come out of closed session?
Everybody's on mute, it looks like, Vice Mayor Pardon.
Okay.
I don't know if they're just,
Okay,
I'm not
let
sure
me-
what the issue is. Councilor Holloway is not on mute.
Let me ask Dr. Manker real quick.
Okay.
I make a motion, we come out of closed session.
Second.
All right, thank you. The motion's been made by Counselor Randolph, seconded by Counselor Pelham. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Denton, is she still on the call?
No.
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon, you have 5 yes and 2 not present.
All right, thank you. Can you please read the certification and then ask the question?
Certification pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3712D, where only public business matters, 1, lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and 2, identified in the closed meeting motion discussed in closed meeting. Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon, you have 5 yes, 2 absent.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to appoint Daniel Jones and Jeannie Langford to the Historic Preservation Committee?
So moved.
All right, I'll second it. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon, you have 5 yes, 2 absent.
Okay, thank you. Before we get into the work sessions, Mr. Altman, I'm going to hand it over to you to give us an update on these.
Yes, sir, Mr. Parton. So this evening we had scheduled 2 work sessions for council. One to discuss, to re-engage on the discussion of boards and commissions. And the second to re-engage from our February discussion of the stormwater program. The first work session, boards and commissions, we have a request of council to defer this item to your June 8th meeting. We have purchased the boards and commissions software that we talked about at a previous council meeting. And Ms. Best has training along with Dr. Manker on June 4th, I believe. And we think it would be best to let them have that training, and then we can present what that software will do for us and how we're going to use it at that time, as opposed to having a discussion tonight and then having another discussion on the 8th. We think it would be a wise use of everyone's time to do it all on the 8th, if that is amenable to the members of council. And I don't want to speak for Ms. Best because I know she's been involved in this process much more than I have. So if she has any comments, I'd certainly refer to her.
The only thing I would say that on Friday before Mayor Bennett went on vacation, she did ask me if we could defer this until the June 8th meeting. And I also, Dr. Manker and I both discussed and agreed that I would go over my part and we would together go over the training at the June 8th meeting. And it just made better sense to do that. So That's kind of where we stand with that right now.
Okay. Counselor Gore, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just want to do a friendly reminder. This is on the agenda because it was an ask that I had to do this work session. We started it back in February, then we had the votes to continue it to this meeting. So there's been conversations about postponing a work session that I put on the agenda that I was not aware of. So moving forward, I would like to be included in those conversations. Secondly, when I did speak to the city manager today regarding this, I was going to also ask to postpone it due to the perspective that I had not yet met with Ms. Best regarding the items to put into the packet. And I noticed that under the submission, there was no submission. So that also is concerning that there was nothing submitted for a conversation. And granted, it shouldn't be because I didn't work on her with anything to put in there. But most importantly, there has to be follow-up conversation regarding the recommendations that we discussed. So I will just ask all the names that were just mentioned to please remember that I did put this on the agenda. And so moving forward, please work with me as well.
And my apologies, Counselor Gore, on the fact that I did not notify you, since you had asked me to get with you on that. So I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. We can set up a time to talk. I'm just saying, I don't disagree with the postpone it at all either. I'm just doing a friendly reminder that,
Understood.
yeah. Thank you.
All right, is there consensus to postpone the work session to June 8th city council meeting?
I move that we postpone the boards and commission work session into the June 8th city council meeting.
All right.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Counselor Gore, seconded by Counselor Pelham. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph. Counselor Randolph,
Excuse me.
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon, you have 5 yes, 2 absent.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Altman, would you like to give an update on the work session for the stormwater program? If you're speaking, Mr. Altman, yeah, okay.
So yes, sir. The second work session we had this evening was our stormwater program work session. And as everyone should be aware, Mr. Badiata has gone on to work for DEQ, and his last day was last Wednesday. And he and the other staff members did not have an opportunity to come together and develop the plan that we talked about in February. So in talking with the vice mayor today, we talked about postponing this to August, to the second meeting in August, to allow for our staff, the remaining staff, to put together a stormwater plan, estimates, cost estimates and such, to bring back to council for discussion with your August meeting.
And I'd also like to say that I think we, and you and I talked about this today, that council should also be given written updates, each month going by, so that way we can actually monitor that the individuals are meeting and making progress toward this issue.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Altman? Okay, hearing none. Do I hear a motion to postpone the stormwater program work session to the second meeting in August, and to have the city manager provide us with monthly updates?
So move.
All right, I'll second it. Any further discussion?
Yes.
1 second, Ms. Pelham. I think Councilor Gore had her hand up first.
Okay.
Thank you. So this too is also news to me. Council Parton did have a work session to talk about this, but then after that, I did, with support of council, request to have this work session to talk about specifically the projects that is in the queue. And I don't know whose phone is beeping, but the projects that are in the queue, so we can have a better picture of that for the budget. And I did follow via email, and Vice Mayor Parton did follow up with me as well to support having this work session. So how are we going to get the information about the projects that's in queue or planned for neighborhoods in regards to curb, gutter, and drainage, so we can think about that for this budget cycle?
So I had asked Mr. Vadiata to give me a state of the program report, where it was, where it is, and where he saw it going, and a status on projects. I'm still waiting to get that report from Mr. Vadiata. So when I get that, we can have that conversation. I mean, looking at the budget piece of it, it's an enterprise fund. So we know we've got revenue coming in. So as we look at, we don't have to approve its budget or those projects and lock those projects in. We can revisit those projects in the August timeframe and then say, lock in what projects you want to move forward with at that point in time. Given that, obviously we're going through a transition, we will have to advertise for that position, bring someone in. So there's going to be, that process that we've got to work through, but we'll work through with our existing staff on moving the projects forward as we can. But absent what we already have in the queue that we've funded, we can bring the next round of projects for consideration to council at that time.
Okay, my next question is this. Isn't like a new topic that's been on the agenda, wanting to know the projects. I mean, this has been going on since last year. It's just now given, I should say, attention. But I guess when we talked about this, I think it was around February. Here we are in almost June. What was the reason why this wasn't addressed for us to have for this meeting? Because we planned it out well in advance to be able to have a presentation.
I don't have a good answer for you, Ms. Gore. I thought progress was being made. I mean, we were all part of that work session. But when I met with Mr. Vadiata and circled back with him after he gave us his announcement that he would be leaving, the indication that I was given was that work hadn't been done on putting together that plan to bring back to council.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilor Pelham?
I think I was playing with I found my raised hand. Never mind.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to say on the stormwater program work session postponement? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Bess, can you please do roll call?
Yes. Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton, you have 5 yes, 2 absent.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see. Going into our regular meeting now. I'd like to call this regular city council meeting of March 25th, 2021 to order. Ms. Bess, can you please do roll call?
Yes. Counselor Denton. I'm sorry. Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Here.
Counselor Holloway,
Here.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Here.
Counselor Gore.
Here.
Vice Mayor Parton, you have 5 present, 2 absent.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to have Mr. Dane to please do the prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Counselor Randolph.
Can you hear me, Vice Mayor Parton?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let us pray. Father God, first we come before you as always with thanks. We thank you for all the blessings we have. We thank you for the safety we have in this community provided by our public safety officials. We thank you for the safety we have in this community as we start coming out of the backside of this coronavirus and the protections you've given us. We ask that you continue to give us that protection as this community heals and moves forward. Lord, we ask for your guidance as we do your business here in this community. Everything we do should be for you, and we ask you to keep us focused on that. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Dane and Counselor Randolph. At this time, is there a motion to amend or, oh, excuse me. I do have one thing that I would like to just say real quickly before we adopt an agenda. Since we have two city councilors that are currently not here, I hope that city council will find it amenable to postpone R5, voting on the operating capital budget resolution until the next city council meeting, the first meeting in June. With that,
I have a point of information, please.
sure.
Is there any way that someone can put the agenda on the screen for the public that's watching so they'll know what we're talking about and what we're adopting, please?
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay.
Let's see. Oh, 1 second. All right, can everybody see it?
Yes, it's
Yes.
visible now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. At this time, do we have a motion to amend or adopt the regular meeting agenda?
So move,
Is it to adopt the agenda?
adopt the agenda as written.
Adopt the agenda as written? Okay, is there a second? Okay, the motion dies for a lack of a second. Is there a motion to amend the agenda?
What's wrong with you?
I move that we adopt the agenda amended to exclude. I'm trying to find the budget discussions.
R5.
R5.
R5. I move that we adopt an amended agenda to strike R5.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. I'll second. Okay, Counselor Randolph seconded it. Motion was made by Counselor Gore, seconded by Counselor Randolph. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes,
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Parton, you have 5 yes, 2 absent.
All right, thank you. At this time, is there a motion to amend or adopt the consent agenda?
I move we adopt the consent agenda.
Thank you. I'll second it. Motion's been made by Counselor Randolph, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
No.
Vice Mayor Pardon, you have 4 yes, 1 no, 2 absent. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. There's nothing under information and presentations. Going into the first public hearing, Mr. Altman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. This evening, you have a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit at 5113 Plaza Drive for the installation of a wireless transmission antenna. Ms. Griffin is here this evening to provide you an overview of the request, and I know she has a PowerPoint.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Parton and all members of City Council. It's good to be with you tonight, and I do have a PowerPoint. At this time, I just need permission to share my screen.
Okay. One second. Okay, you can go ahead, Ms. Griffin. Oh, all right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So the city has received a request from Nav Yuga Hospitality LLC on behalf of AT&T Wireless to have a wireless antenna placed at 5113 Plaza Drive. This is also characterized as subparcel number 2450080. The antenna will be placed on a light pole. They would switch the light pole that's currently there in the parking lot and for a taller light pole with an attached small cell wireless antenna and associated equipment with the concealment canister on the top of the pole. The zoning for this property is B3, which is a highway commercial district, and this is in Ward 7. They're coming to you because the zoning ordinance requires a conditional use permit to be granted for any antennas or cell towers over 20,000 hertz. Here you have the location, 5113 Plaza Drive, and the highlighted area shows the Candlewood Suite, which is where the antenna will be placed. And on the right-hand side is just a zoomed in picture of the aerial photography of Candlewood Suites. Here you have a picture of currently what Candlewood Suites looks like, and on the left-hand side is the light pole that would be replaced. That light pole will be replaced with the light pole that you see in front of you. And we do have someone on the line that can review this particular drawing and take you through what these different antennas will do. And that is Lauren Bean, who's on the line. Before she speaks, I do want to go over the Planning Commission recommendation. At their April 1st, 2021 meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed this application, also spoke to the applicants, and held a public hearing. We did not have anyone speak at that public hearing at the time. On site is, you may have seen around town, several different blue and white signs that we put out from the development department with a number for a case number, and also the number to the office where people can call in case they have questions regarding any development that's taking place in the city. And this was done for this particular conditional use permit. We did get one person to call in to just get more information about the antenna. Outside of that, we did not receive any emails or correspondence for the public hearing for the Planning Commission or the public hearing tonight. This was also placed on our website and also advertised 2 weeks in advance per the state code. The Planning Commission at their meeting recommended approval 4-0. They felt that this application met the approval criteria that's outlined in Article 21, Amendment, Section D, Subsection D, in the Hopewell zoning ordinance. And that concludes the presentation by staff. And again, Lauren Bean is on the line from Jacobs Communication, and she can answer any questions that you have regarding the proposed pole elevation.
All right, does anyone on city council have any questions for Ms. Griffin or Ms. Bean? Okay, seeing no hands and hearing no voices, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Ms. Griffin, you said you did not receive any comments from anybody?
That's correct.
Mr. Altman, did you receive anything from anybody?
No, sir, we did not receive anything regarding this case.
Okay, and Ms. Best, did you receive any comments?
No, I did not receive any comments either.
Okay, I will close this public hearing. Is there a motion to approve or deny the conditional use permit request at 5113 Plaza Drive?
I make a motion, we approve the request as stated.
Okay, I'll second it.
Should read the resolution. You want me to read the resolution?
Ms. Robinson, do we need to do that, or is just a simplistic motion okay?
I didn't hear that, so.
Ms. Robinson?
It's not, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
It's not necessary to read the resolution.
Okay.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to approve the conditional use permit request at 5113 Plaza Drive as presented. It's been properly made by Councilor Randolph, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton. Any questions? Further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Pelham,
No.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Mayor Bennett, you have 4 yes, 2 absent, and 1 no. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, moving right along. We do not have any unfinished business and no reports of boards or commissions. Reports of city manager, Mr. Altman, R1.
Yes, sir, Matt. Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, the first item this evening for consideration is a request to appropriate funds from the Hopewell Water Renewal Commission for the reconstruction of the Hummel Ross Road project. The commission at their last meeting approved appropriation of funding for the following items. Appropriation of $251,550 from the Hopewell Water Renewal miscellaneous revenues to match the full construction award of $1,294,000 for the road project to finish up the road project. Also to appropriate $200,000 from the Hopewell Water Renewal miscellaneous revenues to extend the roadway reconstruction limits of the Hopewell Hummel Ross Road project to include the entrance road into water renewal. For those of you that do not know or haven't had the opportunity to go down there, the entrance portion and up the hill into water renewal has deteriorated quite a bit, given the number of trucks that are coming in now delivering leachate to the water renewal facility, which is how we have the outside the miscellaneous revenue this year. There's been quite a rainy year. Therefore, there's been a lot of trucks running through there, and that weight of the trucks as they sit in line has caused that pavement structure to deteriorate and fail. So $200,000 to rebuild that to withstand the weight of those trucks coming in, and then also to appropriate $160,000 from the miscellaneous revenues to cover the construction cost overruns and construction inspection and quality control services for the Hummel Ross Road improvement project. So it's a total of staff recommending council appropriate $611,550 from the miscellaneous revenues at Hopewell Water Renewal as approved by the the Water Renewal Commission at their May 14th meeting. Mr. Parton serves as chair of that commission. And if, certainly if he has anything to add, and I believe Mr. Butler is on the meeting this evening if you have any questions.
I don't have anything to add. Mr. Butler, do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, sir. I think Mr. Altman covered it real well. The project is substantially complete now, and this is really a financial closeout. The source funds were always identified, and the important thing to know about this project is that the city itself did not have to take any out of its revenue to cover the cost of this. It was all reimbursed, and this worked out very well for us. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Is there a motion to?
I'll make a motion to approve the Hummel Ross Road reconstruction. And the funds are where, Mr. Altman?
The funds are coming from the Hopewell Water Renewal miscellaneous revenue line.
Okay, and to use the water renewal miscellaneous, what was it again? Say it again.
It's the miscellaneous revenue. It's the outside revenue that we receive from leachate.
Yes. In the amount of?
$611,550.
Thank you. That's my motion.
All right. Is there a second? Okay, I'll second it. Any discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon, you have 5 yes, 2 absent. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Altman, R2.
Our next item this evening is R2, which is the fiscal year 21 VDOT revenue sharing program reimbursements. This is kind of our annual rite of passage here on getting our reimbursements back from VDOT for completing eligible projects and rolling those back into the program. Our program, Mr. Butler here on the line to provide a brief overview and answer any questions for council.
Yes, council. This is more or less the neighborhood program with all the neighborhood street curb and gutter, drainage improvement, resurfacing. These are all the funds that as we complete projects and get the revenue sharing portion returned to us, we take those funds and reinvest them in the next project or other projects or small projects. So this is a continuation of that. And this is how I've talked about this before, how we have grown this program. And one of the things that's really helped us grow it beyond what the general capital budget provides is the revenue sharing reimbursements are directed towards the capital program to be reinvested in other projects. And this is the neighborhood program that you've seen us completing throughout the city over the last 5 or 6 years or more.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion that we approve the line item, the monies as printed.
Mr. Butler, is that good enough for you, or do you need a little more specific language?
Yeah, I think we have example of the language we did in past years, but more or less it's that the revenue sharing program reimbursements are reinvested, and they go back to the capital project program to support future projects in the same fiscal year or in the next fiscal year. So it needs to be a little bit more understood that that's how the reimbursement funds will be directed. And they're being directed back to the expense account in the capital program for revenue sharing VDOT projects.
So, whatever.
So if
So I
I
can
may,
say I move to approve
Go ahead.
the FY21 VDOT revenue sharing program reimbursement so that the revenue sharing would be reimbursements to the capital improvement program will be used to advance future projects identified on the list of the city's VDOT revenue sharing program and payment management program.
Thank you. Second.
All right, the motion has been made by Counselor Gore, seconded by Counselor Pelham. Is there any further discussion?
Vice Mayor Parton, I think we already had a motion on the floor. Did we say that that one died before Counselor Gore makes hers? Because we have to do something with that motion.
It was never seconded.
Yeah,
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
I'd just like to ask one quick question, Mr. Butler. Are we on track right now with working towards increasing the city's paving operations and trying to get the city back on the 15-year paving schedule?
I can't really answer that for you, Ms. Barton. I don't exactly know what on track would be. We are investing in the paving program each year, and it goes towards that goal. And obviously, the program can be accelerated with more funds, and as funds come in, be further accelerated. And that's sort of the way it's got to move forward. It's kind of hard to say what the track will be. It's going to be dependent on how the funding stays steady.
Okay.
Is that good enough answer for you?
Well, I guess what I want to know is, are we making progress towards tackling this issue more aggressively? And maybe in better terms, are we appropriating more money each consecutive year towards getting more roads paved?
Well, let me answer it this way. We were doing real well with that up until this year, and VDOT is sort of put a hold on a large part of our source fund that we were using for our neighborhood program, where we have pavement rehabilitation revenue sharing program funds coming in, and that was helping us a lot. Well, they've delayed those payments on future projects for right now. I think last year was a little bit of a budget crisis, an unknown, and it untracks us a little bit, but I expect by the end of the summer that maybe VDOT will come back out and give us the support that we've had in the past years that have helped us move along on a pretty good goal and objective in the neighborhood program. I guess the thing to know is we weren't going it alone before. These streets that we were doing rehabilitation on and the target streets that we plan in future years, we were getting VDOT revenue sharing program to help us out greatly. And they put a hold on that at this time until they get a handle on what 2020 did to the budget. And everything looks like we have come out of the 2020 year statewide, and we're not in bad shape. And I'm hoping that VDOT will again release the revenue sharing program, that portion of it that went towards pavement rehabilitation, which has helped us accelerate and move in towards our goal of getting to more neighborhood streets. Sort of a long answer, but I think that's the best answer I can give you.
That's fine. I appreciate it. I just want, the citizens to know that we, are still continuing to try to ramp up our efforts in, paving neighborhood streets, and that there's only but so much we can do when VDOT freezes money.
Right. And one thing that's kind of important to show that is the action you're taking right now, is that the revenue sharing program reimbursements, what we've used a great deal of those reimbursements on is putting them into the pavement management program, which is after your goal and objective of getting to more neighborhood streets. So this action actually helps support your question.
Okay. I don't have any other comments or questions. Is there anything else that anyone would like to ask Mr. Altman or Mr. Butler?
No. I would just like to say thank you, Mr. Butler, again for the outstanding work you're doing throughout the city in all the areas of improving our neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pelham. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon, you have 5 yes, 2 absent. Motion passes.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Altman, R3.
Yes, sir. Mr. Vice Mayor, this evening we have a request to appropriate $70,000 of part-time salary money to address some issues, corrosion and of the seal support issues in our columns and over our pool at the community center. We have Mr. Reed Miller on the line this evening, and I think he may have some pictures he can show you what we're dealing with. But the request this evening is to allow us to utilize those part-time funds to address the corrosion issues at the steel support beams at the pool at the community center. Mr. Reed Miller.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Altman. Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor and members of City Council. Mr. Altman provided a very accurate summary. We do have a situation where we have some pretty severe corrosion on some of our structural steel in the pool. As you all know, that's a very humid environment, and it appears this has been an ongoing issue for many years, if not a decade. But at some point in time was painted over, essentially masking the problem. And upon a recent inspection, we kind of came across the severity of the corrosion and realized it was going to require a pretty significant fix. We are working with Mr. Butler, Mr. Anderson, and the on-call engineer consultants from HDR to determine the scope of work and the best path forward for what repairs to make and how intrusive they will be. But we know either way, just to determine structural integrity is going to be a little bit intrusive and likely going to be a very expensive process to remedy this issue. So to get us on the right foot, we wanted to make sure we had some funding in place as we move into these repairs, which we hope to complete as quickly as possible. And we've identified some part-time wage savings from the fiscal year due to the pandemic. Many of our part-time positions before the community center reopened, if they were vacated, we essentially froze those positions, saving quite a bit of part-time wage funding throughout the fiscal year. So we've done some calculations and realized that we have about $70,000 that can be reappropriated. And that leaves us a very comfortable cushion in the event that we were to go over our part-time wages from now and until the end of the fiscal year, we would still have plenty of funding to cover our part-time wages. There's no risk of coming up short. But that $70,000 would essentially be appropriated into a capital account that we would then use to address these repairs. If the project comes in under budget, we could divert the remaining funding to additional repair projects in the community center, or it could simply be returned to the general fund with the closeout of that capital account. So that's what we're bringing forward. I can bring up a shared album if you'd like to see images, if that's necessary, or it may be easier to email that out to everyone. But I'm open to either option, whatever we feel like works best.
Members of city council, would you all like to see pictures of the damage that Mr. Reed Miller has for us?
I think it'll be helpful for the public since it's being discussed.
Okay. Mr. Reed Miller, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll let you share.
Okay, just bear with me 1 second and I'll bring up that those images now. Okay, hopefully you all can see this photo album titled Community Center Structural Degradation. This shows the vertical steel support columns in the pool area as mentioned. And you can see that the rust is pretty significant and has been painted over. Wasn't abundantly visible until we started doing some routine cleaning, and a big chunk fell off. And that kind of opened the door to further investigation, which revealed that below the paint, we had quite a bit of corrosion happening. So as you can see, can you all see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can see on some, it's, if you can see my cursor, this image here, that would be a relatively simple repair where it's just a scrape, apply a corrosive protectant and then repaint. But as we navigate to this first picture up here, obviously there's an actual hole in the column, which is very concerning. So that's going to require much more involved repair that would either require welding on a kind of a sistered plate onto the side, which would require taking out some wall block and some of the concrete slab and deck. And then of course, preparing it to be with the corrosive protectant and then repainting everything. So, and then these other images just illustrate how the wall heaters kind of wrap themselves around, and that is part of the problem. There's a metal shroud that covers this connecting pipe. That shroud obviously traps moisture in at the bottom of the columns. And that's a major part of the problem. So all of that would have to be removed to access the column to then begin those repairs. So it's going to be definitely quite the project to get these back to where we need them. And we know $70,000 is a lot to move over, but I want to keep the door open and make everyone fully aware that this project could potentially exceed that. But we won't know until the structural engineers do their full integrity survey, and then they can develop a scope of work for the repairs.
Okay. Before I ask members of council if there are any questions, not sure if this is going to have a lot of discussion, but we do have a couple other items tonight. Can we have a motion to extend the meeting until 9 o'clock? Okay. Councilor Gore, you have questions for Mr. Reed Miller?
Yes, it's really not so much, maybe Mr. Miller can jump in, but I'll direct this to Mr. Altman. So first question I have is, it appears that based off of the last remarks that we heard, that clearly this hasn't gone out for bid because there needs to be an assessment done. And if that is the case, why is this coming to us as a separate item during on the agenda versus in the budget session? And the reason why I question this is because if there is no immediate item that we can take action on tonight, and there needs to be future work and assessments done, then why is there a rush to move money? And I understand that the desire is to secure the money for future needs, but the money, if not used, will go back to the general fund anyway. So when that time comes, just like we handle like emergency or other requests like this, then we would just appropriate the money from the general fund. Why are we going through this when we don't know the cost?
So to answer your question, Ms. Gore, one, we do have an opportunity to garner and utilize salary savings from the current year to address the issue. What we would say is we're not looking to, I wouldn't be looking to establish a capital project in the departmental operating budget, but I think you would establish a capital project in the capital budget, and therefore those funds wouldn't go back to the general fund at the end of the year. So we'd be able to utilize salary savings today to move the project forward without having to go back at the next budget year and find the money. So that would be one. So we don't have that money rolling back into the general fund, because capital projects move forward every year until they're completed and closed out. And then I would say that it may cost more, but what we need to do is secure the funding to be able to move forward with an assessment. And maybe that assessment garners that what really is needed here is, really good scraping down to good metal, priming and repainting, but we may run into some other issues. So at a minimum, we need to get the funding in place to be able to move forward with that assessment piece, to then know where we're at and utilize any funds that we have available that can make minor fixes beyond that. But if there's larger fixes that are necessary, certainly we'll have to bring that back to council. But utilizing the existing funds from this year's budget gives us a little head start on that process.
Okay, so just for clarity, when there's salary savings, the city manager has the authority to allow people to use those for other reasons. So right now you have the authority to give Mr. Reed Miller the option to move forward with an assessment right now without having there be any action of council. So that can be done. But then the other part is, again, if the money isn't used at the end of this fiscal year, it goes back to the general fund. So what's the difference in letting the money go back to general fund, and then we're getting ready to adopt the budget within like the next 20 days, just build into that budget, taking the same funds and putting it in the capital budget where it would come from anyways? I mean, I don't understand. If the money goes back to general fund regardless, what difference does it make if we just incorporate this in the budget we're about to adopt and take the funds there too?
Right. So yes, the city manager has the authority to allow the use of salary savings for non-salary opportunities. However, in this case, what we'd be talking about is making a transfer and establishing a capital project in the capital budget. I don't have the authority to move money.
No. Let me just clarify. What I'm saying is, because I don't want to waste our time. What I'm saying is, if you have the authority to allow Mr. Reed Miller to begin an assessment right now, why would you not go forward with that? And again, pause with the creating a capital budget or project, because that can be built into the budget we're about to adopt in like the next two. It's actually on the agenda tonight to adopt. All we had to do when we meet again is just add this to the capital project in the budget we're about to adopt and give him the funding then. So, because the money is going to come from the same place.
So the money would revert this year if these salary funds, whatever. We allow Mr. Reed Miller to move forward with the $70,000. Whatever he doesn't spend or isn't appropriated or a PO by the end of the year would then fall back to the general fund. And which time in July we'd have to make a supplemental appropriation once the books are closed out. So we're not. we would be, we'd have to wait for the money, the current year budget, those dollars to fall to the bottom line before we could then reappropriate them for the next budget year. If we take action this evening, make a motion to transfer $70,000 of part-time savings from the Department of Recreation budget to create a capital project in the capital fund, then there's no action that would be necessary to deal with those $70,000, because that $70,000, because it's a capital project, they don't fall to the bottom line and go back to the general fund at the end of the year. Those funds move forward. So we asked to establish the capital project, and then we wouldn't have to take that action of reappropriating the funds.
All right, I'll let somebody else ask questions. The Parks and Recreations budget is for the salaries is in the general fund, right?
Correct.
So we'll just go back to the original source.
No, because what we would do is we would take the funds from the operating budget, Fund 11, and transfer them to Fund 71, which is the capital budget.
Right.
Establish a capital budget, and those funds would stay there until the project was completed or supplemented. If the project, if we don't use all $70,000, then the project is closed out. And at that point in time, we can reappropriate the funds.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. I just still don't agree with this. So I don't want to belabor the point. I think he has the permission to be able to do an assessment now. I don't understand the structural part, but I'll trust your judgment because I see the pictures here. I don't know if it's tied to something that would immediately have an effect if not addressed, because as you said, it's been done like this for decades. So what I mean by that is having it started now, or versus waiting to the budget to be adopted. I don't really see the big difference, but I think I support having an assessment now to figure out what needs to be done and using the salary savings for that. Whatever is not used in the Parks and Recreations budget for the salary part goes back to the general fund. And when we adopt a budget, we pull from the general fund anyways. And all we have to do is just take that money and create a capital project in the budget we're about to adopt. So that way it will be what you're describing. I just think that it should be one step and not two separate steps. So I don't disagree with the project. I just don't like the way it's going, it's being handled. So that's just my only feedback. But I think it needs to be done. I support him getting the assessment and what he needs.
All right. Council, we have 13 minutes left in the meeting. Can we get a motion to extend the meeting, please? Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions for Mr. Riedmiller or Mr. Altman? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve a repurpose of $70,000 of surplus part-time wage funding to the department's capital projects budget for structural repairs to the community center?
So move.
All right.
Second.
All right, thank you. Motion's made by Ms. Pelham, seconded by Councilor Randolph. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
No, but yes, in spirit.
Vice Mayor Pardon, you have 4 yes, 1 no, 2 absent. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Altman, R4.
Yes, sir. R4 this evening is a request submitted to extend the real estate payment deadline for the upcoming June real estate billing. I believe that we had upgrades to our Munis system. Our treasurer has requested an extension. Our city attorney has prepared a resolution to extend the payment deadline. And I'll just read the resolution rather quickly. whereas pursuant to the Hopewell City Code, Section 34-16, all taxes and levies on real estate located in the city of Hopewell should become due and payable the first day of June each year, and that the city of Hopewell has provided in Section 34-17 for timely payment thereof by 2 equal installments, to wit, by June 15th and December 5th. Whereas a matter of practice, the city of Hopewell sends by mail the invoices for said taxes and installments due for the year by no later than May 31st of each year, but due to the scheduled technology upgrades to and training of the city's financial systems, and the tax billing has been sufficiently delayed, and then whereas these delays were caused by circumstances beyond the control of taxpayers and should not operate to subject them to penalties, late fees, and or interest for late payments, whereas pursuant to Virginia Code annotated Section 58.1 39-3916, the City of Hopewell Council can extend the time for the payment of real estate and personal property taxes whenever good cause exists. Now, therefore, be it resolved this 25th day of May 2021 by the Hopewell City Council that the June 15th 2021 due date for payment of the first installment of the 2021 real estate taxes is hereby extended to July 15th, 2021. This installment payment received by the due date shall not be construed as late and subject to the imposition of late fee, interest, or penalty. Payment of the first installment received after this date shall be subject to all applicable fees, penalties, and interest. Be it further resolved that nothing contained herein shall change or extend the December 5th due date for the payment of the second installment of the 2021 taxes. Witness here in signature, Vice Mayor Parton.
All right, are there any questions for Mr. Altman?
I make a motion that we extend the deadline.
I have a question.
I have a question as well.
Do we have to get a motion on the floor first?
I second it.
Okay, motion has been made by Councilor Pelham, seconded by Councilor Gore. Let's see, I think it was Ms. Randolph first and then Ms. Gore.
Yes.
Mr. Altman, do you foresee any major issues with the city postponing the collection of taxes? I don't want to put the citizens at a disadvantage, but I'm also dismayed that we're having to do this. And so I'm questioning why we did a computer upgrade that would have negatively impacted the city treasurer at a time when we knew that taxes were going to be coming due. Can you explain that? And then is there any negative impact to delaying the taxes by, I think it's 30 days?
Yes, that would be, well, yes, from just June 6th to June 15th to July 15th.
Right.
Yeah. So to address the issue of our Munis upgrade, one, we're kind of stuck in a mode of when Munis could help us do the upgrade. So we didn't have complete control over when we could do the upgrade. If we delay the upgrade any further, we may be looking at further into the year or next year as a next opportunity to upgrade our systems to get them on par. We did have 2 days of upgrade, and then we worked through all of our issues, and we provided training to all of the employees, availability of training to all employees to utilize the system. The big change is really the front portal, how Munis operates, the functionality, how you do an operation didn't change behind the front face when you log in. Imagine Microsoft changing the way Word looks.
Yes.
You're looking in the ribbon up top to make sure you can find where the functionalities are. They're all there. It's just you got to find it. So that's when I go into Munis, my front page is different, but I can get to the same things that I get that were available before. Probably oversimplifying a little bit, and Dr. Baker, she can correct me if I'm wrong. So we worked through those issues. There has been some delay. As far as adverse effects, I mean, obviously, I would love for our taxes to come in on June 30th before the beginning of the fiscal year. I don't know of a negative effect by extending it beyond then. My preference would just be if we could get it out. So I know the treasurer has to be able to send out the bills 15 days prior to the due date. So if we could get bills out by June 15th, that would give, if people got them, that would give you till the 30th, the 15-day requirement. And I will say the one thing that, while we may be able to control the process in here, the one thing that we cannot control is going to be the Postal Service.
Right.
And unfortunately, the example that I can provide is when we had sent out everyone's notice of a reassessment, and they started hitting mailboxes on a Saturday. I got mine about almost 2.5 weeks later from when the first one hit the mailbox. And I know that they were all sent out at the same time. So I think the abundance of caution is to provide some additional time to our residents so they're not adversely affected by anything that may happen, particularly on the post office side, which none of us can have any control over. So.
Right. Did all departments participate in the training, including Treasury?
I believe, I know that I can't speak to every single department, but I believe every department, because you were provided an opportunity to get training individually on what your individual portal would look like, and training was also provided for departments that were going to have to work through issues. And I know Dr. Manker has worked with the treasurer's office over the past couple of weeks and has provided I'll call it one-on-one training with Munis availability to answer questions and help them through processes.
Good.
I know we're working through some other issues and not issues, but trainings with other departments.
And one last quick question. Is this impacted any other department where deadlines or issues were going to have to be postponed or impacted because of this?
I'm not aware of any other department that will be affected by a deadline such as this.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Gore and then Councilor Pelham.
Yes, I have a point of information first before I say what I have to say. Last time when the meeting ended, when we had a motion of 4, we were able to still finish the topic. So that would carry for this, right, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, ma'am. It's
okay. All right, thank you. So we should be able to still keep going. So my question is, in regards to the Munis upgrade, we knew about this coming last year because we had this on the agenda to talk about the needs for the modules, especially those that impacted our finances, and then the tools to help staff get ready for audits and things of that nature and tracking the money. So this isn't a new thing that should have caught people by surprise. It was known last year. Do you know around the time, Mr. Altman, this was first discussed?
I can't remember when it was. I mean, I know we've been talking about it for quite a while. I want to say we had a conversation certainly in the fall about our upgrades and what we were trying to do and the schedule that we were going to be on, and then knowing that we would be tied into whatever time frame that Munis could provide us to make the upgrades happen.
Okay.
I can't recall. Unfortunately, I can't recall, like the month or the day, but I know we had that conversation.
Yeah, I remember this being discussed last year as waiting until this year. So it was known last year. And my concern was because in terms of training, how long was training provided? Because when I looked into this, I believe I was told that there was like weekly meeting sessions for people to join to practice in the upgraded system, what it will look like for them to do certain tasks within their departments. So is that true? And how long was that training open for people to participate in?
So I know like citywide training, there were several times during the day and days available to get kind of the general overview training. And then there were opportunities provided specifically for training for departments. So If I remember correctly, we arranged for training. Dr. Manker, correct me if I'm wrong. We arranged for training specifically for the treasurer's office related to the upgrade, if I remember correctly, and we've had some assistance work provided to help out real estate here recently also.
So, may I chime in?
Yes.
Okay. So just to provide everybody with a time frame of the Munis upgrade, the Munis upgrade we started prepping. So Mr. Altman is correct. We started the conversation in the fall. And once we reached out to Munis, we kind of got locked in with the date. And to preface that idea of the date, we were already implementing 3 other Munis modules that had to be placed on hold, which we had already purchased and deep into implementation, which had to be paused because we were not on the latest Munis environment. And those other modules would not work properly and would not integrate with the version that we were currently on. Mm-hmm. Prior to this upgrade, we were 4 versions behind last year, and we got up to 3 versions. And so we were only 1 version left that needed to be upgraded, which was tentatively planned for this year in the summer. However, we were not able to make it to the summer. I was able to push it off until just recently. And unfortunately, it just interfered with the tax timeline here. So we began the Munis upgrade in March. And when we began the upgrade, we had starting from March, we had weekly meetings of all departments participating in the environment, in the test environment, so they could all get a comfort level of what the new Munis would look like. And we would talk about things and problems that they have and things to expect. And so that went on for 2 months. And then in April, we had 2 full weeks of training, official training from Munis, from the Munis company. And they provided training for each individual department. Just recently, 2 weeks ago, we extended training just to the treasurer, the commissioner of revenue, and the real estate department because they were in the tax season phase of things. And so they needed additional, not really training, but help with getting through their processes. So that's the timeline. The Munis training has been going on since February or March of this year.
Okay, and so my last question for clarification, I heard so many different departments. I know we're saying the treasurer because they get the bills out, but the other departments that are involved in this process, they too had hiccups to get to this point, right? Because the treasurer's office can't do the bills without having the stuff from the assessor's office put into the system. And when I was looking into what the delays are, I believe I was told that they too were having issues with their system and processes. So did this extend to just beyond the treasurer's office? Mr. Altman, what other departments were impacting the workflow?
Well, in this specific case with regard to the billing piece, we had a day and a half delay in real estate with getting some of their process done. I'm not sure of any issue on the commissioner's side with related to this specific process. As far as other departments, I'm not aware of all of the ones that have had any issues. I mean, everyone's had some hiccups along the way with, one, just be familiarizing yourself with a newer environment. But I don't know of any major issues we've had unless Dr. Manker knows of those.
No, I mean, for this particular thing. So
Yeah.
the real estate assessor's office, they only had 1 day hiccup that held up the treasurer's office.
I think it was about a day and a half to, I think, day and a half to 2 days max of a hiccup to working through their process.
I think it was 4 days.
Yeah, I was told it was longer too.
Dr.
But
Manker,
yeah.
I know, well, to say Dr. Manker worked with those departments. If she can provide some clarity, that'd be great.
So the real estate department had 4 days hiccup. The Commissioner of Revenue has not had a hiccup because they had to wait on the real estate department before their part could be completed. So the Treasurer Department got off to a good start, actually, once the Munis system came back online. And then they had a 1 to 2 day delay with the issue that they needed to understand, but come to find out that that particular step that they were taking was no longer needed in the process. And so on the third day, they was able to move on and hand off to the real estate department. The real estate department had about 4 days of delay. And today we actually enter into the real estate portion. And once the Commissioner of Revenue portion, which I'm told is only supposed to take 1 to 2 days of completion. And then the proceeds will be handed back off over to the Treasurer Department. So I'm not sure from this point, tomorrow, how long it'll take the the Treasurer Department to get back on task, but they are next in line to finish up the processes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to support this obviously because it needs to be done, but it is concerning that several departments are having hiccups with a new system. I get it's new, but 1, it was planned. 2, there was trainings for several months, and for be at the final hour asking for an extension when there's so many resources available, including money we put aside for training with Munis outside of this. I just find it to be unsettling, especially this is like the 3rd year in a row we've had this issue. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Gore. Councilor Pelham? Councilor Pelham, your mic is muted.
My issue is that when you get trained on a system in 2 weeks or whatever it is, it always takes practice to make perfect. And so with the hiccups besides that, just the matter of trying to refigure your mind to do the new way is going to create some issues. And it's obvious that everything is contingent on, if it goes from the real estate to the Commissioner of Revenue to the Treasurer, then it's just a cycle that they have to go through and wait on. And people just getting training, not going to retain everything. So they're going to have questions. They're not going to feel sufficient to do the transactions, in my view. But bottom line is that that's what I guess we have a contingency fund for. The monies don't come in. Some things just cannot be transacted the first day July come in like it's normally. The manager, I guess, can freeze. I would say if we have to freeze funding or whatever it takes to do that spending until the monies come in July, that's what you have to think forward and do. But the extension, no doubt, has to be made so that citizens won't be penalized with late fees and all that other stuff. So that's my initial comment. Thank you.
Councilor Randolph?
I don't want to make my second comment without everybody that hasn't made a comment yet first checking to see if they have a comment, because this will be my second time speaking.
Okay, does anybody else would like to speak for their first time? Okay, hearing none. Counselor Randolph?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just, I guess I'm not understanding still the timeline. I know that we've been talking about this for a long time, and based on some of the comments that I heard, it appears that we have had a week's delay, a little bit, 5 to 6 days delay before it even gets to the treasurer. Now, they don't know how long the treasurer is going to have for any hiccups, but to me, we are asking for a 30-day delay when I can only account for the process up front being delayed, hopefully no more than 2 weeks. So I'm not quite sure why we're, other than the mail, why we would not be already in process doing some of this anyway, if it was a front end process and not a back end. Dr. Manker, maybe you can help me understand, does this impact the normal process of how things should have been in preparation with anything that the process is foreseeable to mail out and do the assessments other than calculating the assessments?
Oh, that's actually an interesting question. You know, when trying to understand and study their process, it was relayed to me from the treasurer and the real estate department that the kickoff cannot start until the approval of the tax rates.
Right.
And that was actually done on May the 11th. May the 11th of this month. And so typically in their timeline, they start the processes on May the 13th. So the Munis came back online on May the 13th. So in a perfect world, obviously, you know, it was a new upgrade, new system, new way of thinking, as Ms. Pelham indicated. There was expected to be some delay, but they actually started the process on the day that they would have started the process. The question is, why couldn't they have started the processes sooner in the old system and just had this completed and ready to be mailed out? And the answer I was given is that that cannot start until the tax rate is adopted. So this kind of kicks back to council with you know, in the future, having those tax approval dates in, you know, maybe a little bit earlier. So in case there are issues, that there are, you know, that there is time, because when the actual processes kick off, they only have 2 weeks to make everything happen in a perfect world in order for in order to meet the deadline for things to be mailed out. So from their discussion, they are always in a rush to make it happen, just based on whenever those tax rates are approved. So, but back to trying to answer your question, you know, I cannot answer it. There's not an answer for you. You know, I cannot anticipate what issues the treasurer may run into in their processes of taking the last steps of getting those bills printed.
Understood. Thank you, Dr. Manker.
All right, thank you, Councilor Randolph. Councilor Pelham?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is that if we had done what we were supposed to do, then she has a chart that shows us where she should have beat, where she would have beat. Y'all see that? The treasurer gave you a timeline.
Can that be put on the screen?
Bottom line is, if we had voted on the time, two things, if we had voted on the tax rate earlier, it would have perpetuated the problem and would have made the problem go easier for their transition. The other thing is, as you said, those dates, May 11th and 13th, to make the transitional training right in the middle of when they processed the tax bills was kind of crazy. Now, Prince George, I understand, did theirs on the weekend. Was there any reason to preclude why we couldn't have done that? So that people could, because people still doing their regular job, they're just not still billing out for taxes either. In the middle of that, you get a Munis update that you're not familiar with. So my thing is, would it could have been possible for y'all to do this on the weekend so everybody could have at least had some time? That may have saved some time to avoid an extension. I'm not sure, but if they did it, I don't know why we couldn't have done it.
So, Ms. Pelham, this goes back to the original answer that Mr. Altman provided. Munis has 32,000 customers, and we're kind of, we have to get on their schedule as to when they can update the services. The only other option that was available to us would have been during tax season later on this year in December. So we wouldn't have escaped it. And then we have 3 other Munis projects that are well into implementation that needed Munis updated before those modules could be fully or continued. So that timeline for those other 3 modules have been delayed until we can get back on their schedule again, which may be the end of this year or next year before we can continue moving forward with those, because we had to pause. And in the interim, they have moved on to other projects. There is no good time to have a update to a system like this, and unfortunately,
I understand.
It just happened during this time. But the processes are still the same. It's just where to look to complete those processes.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, with all those stipulations, the bottom line is that it sounds like with just a lot of internal issues, and so the extension does one primary thing that we all get hired to do, is to protect the citizen and not let them be stressed out because we stressed out in the system. So I'm of course in favor of the extension, and I hope my peers do the same, because the only person who's going to hurt is the citizens if we don't extend this. So with that, there's no more discussion. I'll call for the question.
All right, there has been a call for the vote. Are there any objections? Okay, hearing none. I believe this is going to be the vote on the actual motion itself to approve the resolution with a new due date of July 15th. Oh, 1 second.
I hope.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions? Okay. Ms. Best, roll call, please.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes, to help the citizens, but just disgusted.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Help me, Lord Jesus. Ooh.
Vice
Yes.
Mayor, thank you. Vice Mayor Pardon,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pardon, motion passes 5 yes, 2 absent.
All right. This concludes the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Hope everyone has a great night.
Bye.